Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Linda.
I really think that people take for granted what America is right now, having their free speech. They don't really realize that it could all be changed in a matter of months, years. And I think people really need to wake up and realize that this is a very important election, that America, the government, has been totally corrupt. Washington is totally corrupt. I think that people don't realize that this all can change, that pop culture won't matter soon enough. And exactly what you said, what Kanye West is wearing and Kim Kardashian is wearing. That's why the youth needs to wake up, and everyone, the general public needs to wake up and really get informed and vote, because this election is one that's really going to determine the fate of America.
Do you share the show often? Are you able to get the show out to other people and help them wake up at all?
Oh yeah, I watched the show when I was studying for finals. People are asking me, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, INFOWARS.
Do you want to give out a Twitter handle or anything like that to bring people to you and wherever you're doing your activism, getting people active?
Sure. My Twitter name is Lynn and then 2_L.
All right. See, guys, see if y'all can pull that up. Lynn 2_L. And yeah, and do you have anything else you want to add? Young people out there who might be thinking about just sitting on the couch for the rest of their college career and phoning it in, as I should say.
Right. I just want to say that the reason I like Trump is because I think that he's saying a lot of what the people that are actually involved in knowing what their government is doing and are informed about the corruptness. I feel like he's actually saying it out loud and telling us like no other politician has told us. He exposed the Clintons. He exposed the Bushes. I think that young people and older people alike that aren't involved need to think about what they want for their children and what they want to do in life. If you want to pay high taxes your whole life, if you want to not own your own business, if you want to not be your own boss one day or even make a great living, you need to really educate yourself and think about who you want to vote for.
You guys have the exclusive for, which is a product called Deep Cleanse. And why I'm so excited about it is it's a unique formula, almost like the iodine crystals. We have two unique products that nobody in the world has. One of the most amazing ingredients in the world, and it's called shilajit, and it's actually known as blood of the mountain or rock sweat because thousands of years ago, as a matter of fact, this ingredient was only given to the elite of the elite. Thousands of years ago up in the Himalayan mountains and in Tibet.
And we wanted to put this in stuff for a couple years, but we couldn't get an organic form.
Right. I mean,
so let's explain. I mean, this stuff's so good, we couldn't put it out for years.
Right. So I had to actually, it's kind of like the iodine crystals, finding a source deep in the earth that we could get the cleanest source available. But in Tibet and in Nepal and in the Himalayan mountains, thousands of years ago, they watched these monkeys. And during the summer months, the monkeys would go up into the mountains.
Now you're being racist against monkeys.
And they would pick this black substance from the mountains. And so in Russia, they actually, it grows in Russia in the mountains and in the Himalayas and only in the summer. And shilajit is actually the decomposition of up to 7,000 different medicinal herbs. So it decomposes, all these different herbs decompose in the Himalayan mountains and the volcanic soil up there. And what happens in the summertime...
So it's almost like an oil from...
Yes, it's high in fulvic acid, it's high in humic acid.
Because they're always claiming oil is really from decomposed animals and plants. There is some oil that is based from fossils, but most of it's really abiotic. But so this is a true fossil source? I mean, explain it to me.
It is, it's really the decomposition, like I said, of over 7,000 different medicinal herbs and plants. And with the rocks and the pressure deep in the mountains, it freezes and during the summertime and the pressures build it up,
it oozes out.
It oozes out. So it literally oozes out of the mountain.
It's like rock sap.
It's like rock sap. It's black and it's highly nutritious. Even in the 1980s, when the Olympic athletes in Russia were accused of being on steroids, they found out that they were actually been given shilajit because it works as an anabolic as well. and it builds muscles. It's a big dose in there. The second big main ingredient in there is a volcanic zeolite concentrate. And what this formula is designed to do, the shilajit and the zeolites have a real strong negative charge. All the metals and chemicals and PCBs and VOCs have positive charges. So these go in, they grab it, and then they safely eliminate it through the body so you can become healthy. I mean, this is an amazing formula. I wish I actually had it, but because this was an exclusive InfoWars Life product, you're the only one in the world that has this formula now. And, you know, there is going to be a limited supply available when you sell out because you can only harvest this once a year.
How do people take it? How is it recommended that this be done? Just a daily dose?
Yeah, daily dose. The instructions are on the label. You know, of course, I kind of modify it for each individual. It depends on what your lifestyle is. I mean, honestly, the best thing to do is for you to avoid all these chemicals and toxins in your environment and try to identify them and start slowly reducing them. But personally, I'm going to probably take it every day, every other day, and I'll probably go with about a dropper full to maybe 2 dropper fulls. I don't expose myself to any chemicals.
InfoWarsLife.com. Please also support our local AM and FM affiliates, support their local sponsors or become a sponsor, and spread the word. Because these aren't just great products. This is how we fund this independent operation. We're not taxpayer funded like MSNBC or NPR, and neither is your local station. So support them, folks. This is a war.
Now that the omnibus bill has firmly planted its clutches on the internet via the CISA legislation that was buried inside of it and Obama signed into law, we can now put under the microscope a totalitarian example seeping into our previously protected online identities. China's largest social networks have partnered with the country's communist government to create a credit score system that will measure how obedient its citizens are. Entitled Sesame Credit, the program aims to create a docile, compliant citizenry who are fiscally and morally responsible by employing a game-like format to create self-imposed group social control. In other words, China gamified peer pressure to control its citizenry. And though the scheme hasn't been fully implemented yet, it's already working insidiously well, reports Zero Hedge. Sesame Credit is operated by Alibaba and Tencent, 2 companies that run all the top social networks in China, including Weibo, which has over 200 million users. It works by measuring not only purchase and bill paying history, but also political compliance. The ACLU warns, among the things that will hurt a citizen's score are posting political opinions without prior permission, or posting information that the regime does not like, such as about the Tiananmen Square massacre that the government carried out to hold on to power, or the Shanghai stock market collapse. It will hurt your score not only if you do these things, but if any of your friends do them. This social pressure would obviously make individuals far less likely to criticize the government or to counter a dominant social narrative. The credit scores can also be seen by anyone, adding the further burden of potential public shaming for controversial opinions.
At any point, anybody can check anyone else's score. And when you check your own score, Sesame Credit provides a handy map of your friends to show you who's dragging your score down. Social pressure, ostracization, those things are free. They happen on their own. And as a government tool, they don't have nearly the same potential for going embarrassingly, disastrously wrong. With a system like this in place, a government doesn't even have to tell neighbor to spy on neighbor, to rat each other out, because that's all built into a seemingly innocuous game system. The government need not step in. Re-education will be handled for them by friends, classmates, and relatives who want to maintain a high score.
Johan Lagervist also warns that the program will scrutinize what people read, labeling it akin to Amazon's consumer tracking with an Orwellian political twist. Sesame Credit is currently opt-in only, but is set to become mandatory by 2020. So how does this translate in the supposedly free Republic of the United States? Well, for years, the Obama administration's White House has been pushing cybersecurity initiatives that would mandate de facto government permission to use the internet, since web access would be linked with an individual user's identity. It could easily be restricted if that individual dares to dissent against the state.
Bound to classify you as unmutual. We must warn you that if any further complaint is lodged against
If we continue to treat the feelings of perpetually offended, outraged mobs with more importance than free speech, particularly controversial and unpopular free speech, there will be no need for governments to impose a social credit score to control citizens. We're already imposing that on ourselves by default, as Obama's New World Order agenda gains strength while we all sit and watch. John Bound for INFOWARS.com.
You know, Australia is a good example. Canada is a good example. The UK is a good example. Why? Because each of them had mass killings.
Somebody somewhere will comment and say, Obama politicized this issue. Well, this is something we should politicize.
I'm not going to carry a gun. I don't want to be involved in a gunfight.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in.
Go ahead. Make my day.
So the notion that gun laws don't work, it's not borne out by the evidence.
He says that Chicago police had a plan over this bloody 4th of July weekend. Nonetheless, as you indicated, Corey, there was a count of casualties that could have been from Afghanistan or Iraq.
We'll make it harder for law-abiding citizens, and criminals will still get their guns.
In many cases, the offenders, felons, some out on parole, some out on bond.
We have to respect the tradition in this country of people who want to defend themselves and their family from violence. There are people at high levels in this government who have bodyguards 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The average American does not have that.
Mayor Bloomberg, why can you defend yourself but not the majority of Americans? I mean, look at the team of security you got.
Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this, and we need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Was this the weapon of choice for a new kind of terrorist? When a 5-year-old girl said she and a classmate should shoot each other with bubbles, the school called it a terrorist threat.
AK-47s belong in the hands of soldiers, not in the hands of criminals.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
Lay down your arms, you damned rebels!
But we don't need the ability to arm ourselves against the Army or the police.
What kind of a situation in the U.S. would you see that happening?
I mean, we've got a lot of constitutionalists and a lot of people that stockpile weapons.
Discovered the clergy would help the government with potentially their biggest problem, us.
To say we're not turning our guns in, and we're not running, and we're not backing down. If you want them, come and take them.
Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. It's Alex Jones.
The British are coming! The British are coming!
Now the ride of Paul Revere set the nation on its ear, and the shot at Lexington heard round the world. When the British fired in the early dawn, the War of Independence had begun. The die was cast, the rebel flag unfurled, and on to Concord marched the foe to seize the arsenal there, you know, waking folks, searching all around. Till our militia stopped them in their tracks. At the old North Bridge, we turned them back and chased those redcoats back to Boston town. And the shot heard around the world was the start of the revolution. The Minutemen were ready on the move. Take your powder, take your gun, report to General Washington. Hurry in, there's not an hour to lose.
It happened that they had planned, if the British was ever to come over here, that they'd put a light up in this high church steeple. And Paul went down there to look. And sure enough, there was the light, burning brighter than day. Well, Paul, he jumped on his old horse and he lit out. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he had to go somewhere. Oh, I wish you could have seen it. That old horse with his ears laid back and his nostrils wide open, sucking in wind like a jet engine, feet pounding on them cobblestones, striking off sparks. Paul holding on for dear life and hollering at the top of his lungs. He says, the British is coming, the British is coming. Get you a gun, we gonna have us a